Thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Before we look at the snow potential over the next 36 hours across Ireland, England, Wales and Scotland, we will look first and foremost at the recent and latest model run of the GFS with regards to the stratosphere. You can see here the model is continuing to show this major southern stratospheric warming potential, at least anyway, towards the middle portion of the month. As we play through the loop here, you can see the very strong pulse of warming rotating out of Siberia right the way across the top of the pole, displacing and almost wiping out the polar vortex here. This is the mid portion of February, so we will wait and see what happens, because I feel as if in recent times it is a bit of a broken record with regards to the wait and see approach. Incidentally, this is still the ECMWF 30-day temperature anomaly profile here for the 6th of February through the 7th of March, and it still shows colder than average across Northern Europe, warmer than average across the south. This is the mean sea level pressure anomaly here, and you can see the blocking across the top, negative heights across the south here. So the models certainly are doing a lot to try and almost dismiss what I've been saying now for quite some time. And I suppose, you can't ignore certain things, but I had been forecasting this idea long before the models suggest it. I tend to not listen too much to outside noise. I don't tend to look at other weather sources either. Yes, I do watch the Met Office and I do watch the BBC, but I tend to build my forecast ideas on what I think is going to take place. So, like I say, it is a wait and see approach when it comes to the overall situation here. But if we look at the ECMWF 7-day temperature anomaly chart here, and we go back to the here and now, we've got that kind of almost north cold, south warm scenario here. We start to see brutal cold starting to develop back over Scandinavia once again. And as we play through the increments here, you can see what takes place. The cold kind of holds on and pushes back warmth over the North Atlantic here. And this is very indicative of what I've said. Strat warming, Mandrelian oscillation, you know the philosophy behind why I think a certain type of weather pattern is going to take place. Now, maybe this here is incorrect completely, but I'm scratching my head slightly at certain things, because I'm thinking these models have been showing the same thing for quite a long time. They coincide, they make sense based on what the MJO was showing, based on the stratospheric warming that was seen during the middle portions of January, right at the same time that we were seeing the warmest conditions. Strong ridge over North America, strong ridge over Europe here. But we've seen that major warming taking place within the stratosphere. Skip forward 2 weeks, and you've got a 70% chance of a colder than average pattern for the UK, Ireland, and Europe here. There is a pullback coming up. No getting away from that. There is a warmer surge coming back up from the southwest that was not anticipated last week, but certainly over recent days it has been quite firmly on the charts. So you would be kidding yourself on if, or I would be kidding myself on if I dismissed that and said that wasn't the case. I gave a detailed explanation in yesterday's video with regards to why I still think that the pattern will turn progressively colder. There is still evidence in some of these medium to long range models that suggest that we will still go to that time frame. What my argument always is, and I don't want to waste too much time talking about something that I've already talked about in recent videos, but what I've said already, that sometimes when you get these major transitions in an upper pattern, when you turn the upper height field on its head between the Arctic and subtropics, the models sometimes have a very difficult time distributing the shift of warm and cold areas within the atmosphere, and the GFS can be notorious for that. It tends to not see cold very well. So like I say, we'll wait and see what happens. But this is the ECMWF extended, and you can see that the cold continues right the way through into March, early mid-March. It's showing a cold signal overall. So like I say, time will tell what takes place. Certainly over the course of this evening, we have clearing skies, light winds. Wouldn't be surprised if we take a run at -10 both tonight and tomorrow night under the clear skies and the colder. We've also got snow-covered ground across parts of the north as well, so that will enhance the radiative cooling effect during the overnight hours. But it's all eyes on the central and southern portions of the British Isles. We've got cold that has been drifting south. If we look at the overview chart here of the GFS model, and you can see the 850s here have been pushing southwards with that colder. Then we've got the system here out over the North Atlantic that is going to push eastwards, but due to some developments over the far western Atlantic towards the United States side of the Atlantic, we have seen the subtle changes take place over the last 48 to 72 hours, which has actually slowed down the eastward progress of this area of low pressure here. Hence why the warmer surge is coming when it wasn't seen before. Originally, the models thought that the area of low pressure would move eastwards quicker, and it would essentially, cold air would come south before the system arrived. Then it would lift a little bit further north as the system approached. And then as the system then exited the playing field of the UK and Ireland, we would see the cold coming back southwards once again. But hold back that area of low pressure slightly to the west-southwest of the UK, and you're then pulling the warmer air, holding the air warmth in place longer, and that is the reason for the change, quite a dramatic change actually in the last 48 to 72 hours when you think about that. But this is off the GFS model, and you can see here the cold air coming south, snow showers embedded within that northerly airflow here. So it stays clear, calm, and cold central Scotland northwards here. But you notice here, as that area of low pressure then edges in, there is high pressure creating a resistance over Scandinavia as well, may I add. But you notice here how cold the air is now over Scandinavia and Western Russia compared to what was seen during the first 6-7 days of the month, where we've had warmer than average conditions. But you see here the presence of that high to the east of the UK holding back the eastward progress of that low pressure system, and therefore the milder air in the south and southeastern flank then kind of rotating within the circulation of the low, moving back northwards, and that is going to essentially push all the cold back north once again. And then that area of low pressure doesn't really exit the UK atmosphere through the course of the weekend, and hence why we've got a milder overall scenario setting up here. Then, as you can see here, that those areas of low pressure then start to cycle a little bit of colder air around that area of high pressure, but in comes the next circulation here off the Atlantic. Now, one thing I want to add to you, bearing in mind what's taking place, we are seeing the transition now to higher pressure across the north, and one of the contributing factors to that is you have to transfer heat from the subtropics towards the Arctic region, and by doing that, you're actually seeing that taking place here. Warm air advection. Areas of low pressure over the Atlantic is pushing unusually warm air northwards into the Arctic. If we look at the 850 temperature anomaly chart here, this should show very nicely indeed that warming getting lifted northwards here. So by doing so, we are going to then start to raise the heights over the Arctic region. And this is the thinking that I have with regards to this large-scale pattern change here. It's trying to look at the big picture here and understanding the potential of how a cold pattern could start to develop. Does the models see something, go away from it, and then see it once again? That will only time will tell here, but look at the amount of transport of warm air getting wafted northwards into the Arctic region here. That essentially is what's going to pump the heights across the far north, Greenland, the Arctic, sending the Arctic oscillation negative here. Let's have a look and see what the latest run of the GFS ensemble is showing here, because this is very important. So if you look at this here, this is the Arctic oscillation here, firmly positive. It's going negative at the moment, but something has to trigger that shift from positive to negative, and you have to then transport warmth out of the subtropics towards the Arctic region to then change the overall balance of the atmosphere between north and south. And what is happening, I think, is we're seeing this warming pattern, this removal of the cold setup at the moment, and seeing this transport of warmth up into the Arctic, which will then send the Arctic oscillation negative, and then it's further down the road that we wait and see whether we see a response within the atmosphere. But like I said, I'm constantly trying to show you the big broad picture, trying to show you the reality of the pattern. If something is not happening, I will throw the towel in and say I was incorrect with that one, and we will simply wait and see. But there is certainly a warming surge coming up late this week into the weekend here that was not originally seen, and I've explained already why those changes taking place. So let's have a look at the UK view here and see the snow potential over the next 24 hours. Do I think it's going to be a big snow event for the Midlands and Northern England? I think high ground we've got 10, 15, 20, possibly 25 centimetres of snow possible. So this is what happens here. We've got an area of high pressure over the northern half of the UK with snow-covered ground. We have a chance of seeing -6, -7, -8, locally close to -10, both tonight and tomorrow night. Then as that moisture and mild air comes in on the south and southeastern flank of the low, we've got this warmer moving north, coinciding with the cold air that has been kind of developing over the Midlands, over the heart of England and Wales over the last 24 or so hours. This means that the precipitation changes over to snowfall here. Heavy rainfall. We could see an inch or two of rain across the far south of England here, so that will pose issues with regards to flooding. But as that moisture then bumps into the colder air from about Birmingham, north of Birmingham, up through Manchester, Greater Liverpool, Leeds, Bradford, Huddersfield, for example, M62, Trans-Pennine routes, especially across the South Pennines, we could have some very tricky travel conditions indeed. Northern Ireland also susceptible to some fairly heavy snowfall as well. At the coast, I think it will fall as rain or sleet. I think inland areas near sea level will have a chance at seeing some accumulations, but it might be a bit of a hit and miss at low levels, even in inland areas. But I think over higher ground there's a greater chance at seeing something fairly substantial. Then, as you can see here, the snow then and that band of precipitation then lifts northwards here, but there is warmer air getting lifted northwards, so therefore this will be a transient snow event across the British Isles here. We will see more significant snow potentially across the Highlands, so more tricky travel conditions like we've seen during the overnight and through the course of today across the far north. And then really it's a messy, low pressure dominated pattern. Beyond that, well, we'll look at that in the coming days here. Let's have a quick look at the snowfall projections here seen by the GFS. So if we play through the loop here, some snow cover on the far north of the UK due to that northerly flow. Then we've got some snow projected across parts of the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Glen Pass, high elevations, the Mourne Mountains, for example. We'll probably see a few, several centimeters of snow out of this here. North Wales, again, high ground, the Peak District, the South and Central Pennines, anywhere from north of Birmingham with any kind of elevation, we may see snow-covered roads during the overnight through tonight. Parts of the higher elevations of the M6, for example, may have issues. M73, or should I say M74 actually. But you notice here that the snow cover then lifts northwards here, and we lose the snow cover further south because of that warmer air getting lifted north. But we could see a relatively decent snow event across high elevations of northern England, southern and central Scotland, the Central Highlands during the next 24 to 48 hours here. So that's it for today. I think I've waffled on long enough. Like, share, and subscribe. You know the drill by now, and I'll see you again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.